Good evening, everybody. This is Darius Assemi, your host for Unfiltered, a GB Wire podcast, along with my co-host, Bill McEwen. Bill, good evening.
Good evening, Darius.
Right out of the gate, today is St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patty's Day to all of you in Ireland, in our country, and whoever celebrates this Irish special day. I don't know if they celebrate that in the Middle East. I'm not sure. Um, but let's jump into the weather. Sizzling hot. Not quite the century mark yet, but we have a short burst of 90 plus. But look at that beautiful weekend in the low 90s, high 80s. Great tomato planting weather, by the way. And then we have when it comes to Fresno land, you best follow the money. Ashley Land article, actually not article, opinion piece by Bill. Bill, any comments on that? You got a ton of comments. I got a bunch of texts from folks that go, "Wow, way to pull the Band-Aid off and pull the scab off the wound and expose what's underneath." You want to add anything more to the article?
Well,
Talk to folks.
Darius getting so many page views because it's been included in a lot of newsletters around the state of California. And you go back to a couple years ago, Joe Matthews declared Ashley Swearingen, the former mayor, the unofficial governor of the San Joaquin Valley. And he meant it as praise. And certainly Ashley is to be respected, is trying to do a lot of good things in the valley. At the same time, there hasn't been a lot of transparency, about how powerful she is. And when you look at it, she's the CEO of the Central Valley Community Foundation and directs funding to a lot of the activist groups that are in the Fresno area and the greater San Joaquin Valley. One of those groups is Fresno Land, a nonprofit local journalism site. And what happens is Fresno Land covers many things that are happening in Fresno, including organizations like Leadership Council and Building Healthy Communities. And Fresno Land, in addition to being funded by the Central Valley Foundation, is funded by these billionaire endowment groups. And they all share funding. Fresno Land gets funding from them. Building Healthy Communities gets funding from these groups. And so does Leadership Council. And that's not disclosed in the stories. Now, to Fresno Land's credit, they will disclose in a story if they're talking about the Central Valley Community Foundation that they receive funds for it. But they don't go the extra step to say we're writing about groups that receive fundings from the same group that fund us. And I just wrote that column to make people aware of that. In addition, Building Healthy Communities, Leadership Council, they portray themselves, and other media often portray them as these gutty little underdogs fighting for the small people. In the article, you'll find what the CEOs of those two organizations make. In salary and benefits, it's $200,000 a year as of the last reporting period in 2024. So when you consider Fresno's economic structure, that puts those CEOs in the upper crust of Fresno incomes. People need to know that. And then finally, this whole situation with Joaquin Arambula, GV Wire broke the story about the allegations in the divorce papers that were filed by his wife, Elizabeth. Um, and also the fact that he didn't work for 30 days in the state capitol. He was in rehab for alcohol, cannabis, and gaming addiction. So that's 30 days really. The district, the Fresno district he represents, went without representation, not a word out of his office about it. And then after the story broke and all other media piled onto it or followed it, advanced it, Fresno Lands sat mum. It was the San Joaquin Sun that pointed out Arambula had been mentioned in 81 articles and newsletters in Fresno Land in recent years. And during that time, none of those articles revealed that Arambula family members sat on the board of directors for Fresno Land, nor did they reveal that Fresno Land receives funding from Arambula Family Trust. And that trust is the Jerome Rappaport Family Trust. He was a huge developer in the Massachusetts area and very controversial because he fought against tenant rights. He raised an entire neighborhood, and yet you have Fresno Land that's often portraying developers as, big bad developers and hurting the small guy. They have that portrayal, but at the same time, they accepted funding from a notorious developer who, as I said, fought against tenant rights and knocked down neighborhoods. So, the hypocrisy and the irony is pretty thick. People have reacted to the story and they said, hey, mainly, thanks for educating us. Now we understand a little better how things go on in the city of Fresno.
Thank you, Bill, for that synopsis. So, Ashley Swearingen, our former mayor who runs Central Valley Community Foundation, is funding Fresno Land. Was this because some of
their foundation is
the Central Valley Community Foundation is funding Fresno Land, and Ashley is the head of the foundation, and
president and CEO.
President and CEO of the Central Valley Community Foundation, and some of the journalists are her previous staff at City of Fresno.
So I can only identify one, and that's the manager, or you want to call the executive editor of Fresno Land.
Is that who is that? I forgot her. It's a woman. What's her name again?
Danielle.
Oh, Danielle Bergstrom. Okay.
Yeah, and so she's the former public policy analyst for the Swearingen administration when Ashley was mayor. And then when Ashley termed out, she went to work at the Central Valley Community Foundation working for Ashley. So you have those two links there. In addition, when you look at Leadership Council and Building Healthy Communities, Fresno Building Healthy Communities, when you look at their tax records, they both became nonprofits in 2017, shortly after Ashley left the mayor's office.
Got it.
Is there a direct link? I can't say that, but certainly people kind of put the dots together and come to their own conclusions.
I'm sorry, link between what? Is there a link between
the timing of the nonprofit status
of
those two groups?
Building Healthy Communities and
Leadership Council.
Got it.
And also, I didn't put in the column, but again, Leadership Council, which portrays itself as, the small band of warriors. It has $20 million in assets, and itself has accumulated enough money through grants and winning lawsuits that it is now able to fund other nonprofit groups in the city of Fresno.
What kind of assets?
And they all tend to have, progressive leanings.
What kind of assets? Do you know, Bill?
Well, I just read the tax line, and it totaled up to $20 million.
Got it. Okay.
So Yeah, a lot of cash on hand.
Thank you for that summary on that great column. Uh, let's go to the TSA. Some airports may be shutting down, but it doesn't look like Fresno Airport is on that list yet. Don't have enough funding for TSA. Senior Trump administration said Tuesday that if a government funding standoff continues, it may force the shutdown of some smaller airports in the coming weeks over lack of security personnel.
And what's interesting about that, Darius, is more Republicans now are joining in and opposing funding based on the fact that the Trump administration's not going to commit to reforms of ICE. So the objections about the manners and tactics ICE has used in this immigration crackdown, it started out with a lot of objections from Democrats, but now an increasing number of Republicans object as well. So Trump can say the Democrats are blocking funding for Department of Homeland Security, but in truth, now it's a bipartisan effort. They want real reform on what ICE is doing.
Got it. I saw an image today. I think it was on Steve Brandau's Facebook page, and I'm going to ask Christian or Paul to see if he can track it down. That shows all these, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Massey, Congressman Massey, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly. There's one other gentleman, I think, or woman on that kind of part of the original, really gang of MAGA, heavy MAGA supporters that President Trump is shying away from them, or they are basically disagreeing with President Trump's policies. Again, going to Epstein files, he's going to release all of it. That was part of the campaign promise. No more wars, put an end to wars, no more wars of choice, get rid of all these endless wars, put an end to Ukraine war in one day, and here we are. So it's uh, let's see if we can track down that image.
So Darius, this rift is growing in MAGA over the war. And I think I said on a previous show, I mean, Trump says so many things, he thinks people can't keep track, or he thinks he's always going to be forgiven if he does something different. And let's be honest, sometimes circumstances dictate that a leader, especially the president, has to go against his previous policy. You're not going to make a stupid decision just because of a promise you made in the past. But in this case, his promise of no more endless wars, the hundreds of times he said, if we go into Iran, it'll be foolish. Of course, he said that when Democrats were in office or George W. Bush was in office. He was a big critic of Bush as well. This promise, no more endless wars, MAGA people, they're not forgetting it. Many of them are not forgiving it. And so this is a problem for him. The other thing I would add, Darius, is this war was a war of choice, but now because of deteriorating conditions, because what it's done to the global energy market, because we know there's enriched uranium there in Iran, it is now a war of necessity. And, how's it going to play out? There's probably four chief things that have to be accomplished by this war. Another one would be a pledge by Iran, the new Iranian leadership, that will no longer fund these military militias in other countries that are always attacking Israel. That has to happen. And the other thing that has to come out of this war is a pledge by the new leadership that they won't wage war on their own people in Iran. That's very important. As I say, this was a war of choice. Trump made the wrong choice. Now it's a war of necessity. especially with the Strait of Hormuz. And somebody said this the other day, and I apologize, I can't remember and give that person credit, but they said, we'll have success in Iran when the motto of the new leadership is long live Iran and no longer say death to America. As you've said many times, Darius, Iran, with all its natural resources, with its educated workforce, with its strategic placing in the world, it should be arm in arm with the United States of America. Now it's this theocratic regime, hardline regime, that created that split, no doubt about it. But we have to get in a situation where we're in lockstep again.
The what we hear as Iranian Americans is folks, lobbyists in Iran or government folks go to the villages, get people to come out, pay them, probably not even money, lunch money, to come out, bust them in, and rallies on with the slogans of "Death to America." Majority of Iranians, well, at least until about a month and a half ago, love not American government necessarily because it's done a lot of crappy things to Iran, but love American culture, love the opportunities, the democracy, the values, the founding values of our country, and how we liberated Europe, liberated, Jews from concentration camps. We were a liberator of people and bringing democracy and freedom by and large. Now, post Second War, we've done a lot of crappy things, but Iranians by and large love American culture. Not what was that poll? 92% of Iranians do not support their own government. This is 4 years ago or 3 years ago, but their choice. Then right now they're looking at, we hate our government who's created so much misery, and by the way, stolen so much of Iran's wealth. The government, the current government. But between that and getting bombed to oblivion by Israel and the United States, it's not a regime change. I don't believe, I said it last week, I don't believe it's ever about regime change. When you're going on bombing old palaces, cultural sites, bridges, water infrastructure, energy infrastructure, you're crippling a country and converting Iran into a Syria or Lebanon, which Israel can mow the lawn anytime Israel wants, which means go on and bomb whatever else you want, destroy the Air Force. Israel is the most sophisticated, or the second most sophisticated military force in the world, probably the most technologically advanced, even more than us in terms of spyware, intelligence, spying on people. Well, they've occupied the Palestinians for decades. So there's they can do whatever. They're doing it to Lebanon. They've done it to Gaza. Hey, 2.5 million people displaced on Gaza. 2.5 million people on the other side being under occupation for decades, and the world just looks the other way. I mean, nobody wants to live under occupation. Look at what the French did to the Nazis when the French were being occupied by Nazi Germany. Nobody wants to be. You can't even go from this house to a grocery store on the West Bank without going through a checkpoint. If most Americans knew how people in Palestinian territories live, I'm not saying their leadership is good, their leadership is corrupt as well, the Palestinians. But if most Americans knew how these folks live, they go, oh my God, I can't believe we're sending $4 to $10 billion of our money to Israel that is doing this to these people. But the power of the power of folks, the influence of folks on U.S. government is really huge. We're going to move on. We've talked about that many times. Let's put a poll up. Oh, we found that image. There you go. That's the image. Those are the 5 folks that has been floating around on the internet. There's President Trump. That's who is the Senator Paul. That's the 5th person.
Darius, the top 5 there have split from Trump, and the bottom 5 stay loyal to him. Most notably, Senators Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, and then also conservative commentator Mark Levine.
And I think Tucker Carlson calls Mark Levine an Israel firster. Israel first, United States. And I don't know the woman and the other gentleman with glasses on the left, but okay. Let's move on. Slide 8, quick poll. This poll has been up for a while. Do you support U.S. military action against Iran? 50% said no. And I think the numbers changed. Last week was, I think, 48.
Opposition is growing.
Opposition to the war is growing. The first today, we had who resigned today? Top U.S. counterterrorism official Joe Kent resigns over Iran war, saying that this was a war of choice. Iran was. Let's put 16 up.
And so, Darius, I can bring something to the conversation on that. First of all, Joe Kent,
Yeah.
career Green Beret, 11 military tours. Think about that, 11 tours in battle zones. That's a big commitment to America. Darius, you also need to know that his wife, who also served, was killed in Syria. So he's a Gold Star husband. President Trump begged him to take this job just about a year ago. And when Kent got the job, Trump was effusive about having Joe Kent on his team. He took to social media, one of those all capital letters proclamations. And we need to know what Kent posted today. And last I looked, his post had more than 80,000 retweets. Think about that. So
Wow.
He said, after much reflection, I've decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, effective today. He said, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Think about it. He's in charge of national counterterrorism. He says Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. And then he says, it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby.
He's spelling it out. Most Americans are becoming aware of the influence of lobbies, whether it's the Israeli lobby or whichever lobby it is on Washington. I mean, there's a lot of lobbyists in Washington. But President Trump, as I said, last week, has done a really good job assisting Prime Minister Netanyahu, being a good assistant and executing what I think the Prime Minister wants. I think they have a really close relationship, and I don't know if the history goes back before the first term of the president. Okay, let's move on. Straits of Hormuz. What are the president? Let's put up slide 18 or 17 and then 18. So yeah, there we go. U.S. allies rebuff president's request for support in Strait of Hormuz, and then let's look at the countries that said about not so fast. There we go. To join him, President asked these countries to join a multinational naval coalition to keep the straits open, and that's their response. It's really interesting. Yeah, Japan, who gets a lot of its oil from the Middle East, Japan said no.
Well, many countries regard this as a suicide mission. At its least wide point, I mean, Iran has good positioning, and there's the fact that it can fire ground level missiles and whatever at these oil tankers. These oil tankers are hugely expensive. The other thing is, and we know many of the Iranian fighters view themselves as potential martyrs for the cause. They can just get on a quick boat and go straight towards the target. So this is a difficult situation. The other thing I want to point out, Darius, is President Trump. So first of all, he said, we don't need anybody's help, right?
Yeah.
Then he asks all these countries for help. They rebuff him. He comes out and he reacts to that by saying, we don't need their help. I was just doing that as a loyalty test. And later today, he proclaimed, we need no one's help. We're going to do this all by ourselves. And then
Yeah.
once again, he's talking about, how terrible NATO is and making his usual threats against NATO.
Let's play a video. Somebody interviewed, this is on Reuters, Reuters International. This foreign minister of Iran was on Reuters being interviewed about closing the Straits of Hormuz only to those countries involved in the conflict, while others can transit with Iran's permission. Let's play that. If it's a quick video, let's play that now.
They are asking other countries to come and help them so that the Strait of Hormuz remains open, which, of course, from our perspective, it is open. It is only closed to our enemies, to those who carried out unjust aggression against our country and to their allies. We have not sent any message. We are not asking for a ceasefire. But this war must come to an end in a way that it will not be repeated again.
Christian for that. Let's put up slide 27. Israel says it has killed Iran's de facto leader, Larijani, who was served as the head of the intelligence services of the Iranian government. If I want to make sure I have that correct. Head of the Basij, Iran's powerful plainclothes militia. That was somebody else, Soleimani, but Larijani.
So Darius,
Yeah.
basically, Larijani has been running Iran.
Okay.
And he is a hardliner, but people that have dealt with him have said he's very pragmatic, is always open to dealings. So Israel clearly thinks it can weaken Iran, kill as much of the leadership as possible, and maybe the people will turn against the regime. That makes sense to some degree, but really we're dealing with a black box in Iran. We don't know how they're going to react to those situations. And when you kill someone like Larijani, who people have experience with, they can get a sense of how he might react to certain situations. He'll be replaced by who? You don't know what you're getting with the next person that assumes his role. That complicates the situation there even more.
That's right. And earlier we were talking about you were talking about a lot of folks. Rift widens among Republicans over Israel and war in Iran. And that's the image of Tucker Carlson. That article, it's an article on New York Times, can be read at GB Wire.
So Darius, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
When was the last time you heard a lot of powerful voices in MAGA quoting the New York Times? How often does that happen?
Yeah, and almost never. That's a good point, Bill.
But over the last 2 or 3 days, it's happening. It's happening on Fox News. It's happening on streaming. It's happening wherever people access ultra-conservative news. And all of the commentators are taking something from a column written by Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times. And he began the column by saying, how would Americans react if another country set up shop in Mexico and fired missiles into our country and killed 175 school children? We know how we would react to that. We do everything we could to get revenge. We would escalate into war. A lot of people that support this war really need to just for their own good, just as a mental exercise, is think about everything that's happened to Iran, killing of school children, the flattening of cultural sites, heritage sites, and think about how they would react if that would happen in America. We know how we reacted after 9/11.
That's a good point, Bill. Well, war makes a lot of money for the war machine and the defense industry, and endless wars continue to make a lot of high margin profit, high margin sales, and good profit for a lot of those companies, and people suffer. I just think of people. There's evil people in the world for whatever reason, and that don't believe in the values, human values, uh, whether it's Christian values, Muslim or Jewish values. Um, but the majority of us want the same things. We want a good roof over our head, good shelter, education, food, health, healthcare, and hope for a better tomorrow. You take that away, and people do goofy things. And again, nobody wants to be occupied. Nobody wants to be in a house imprisoned for decades. You can go to your bathroom, we give you food from time to time, but you're going to be stuck in your house. I mean, a lot of Palestinians have suffered that way. And now Iranians, they've been suffered under this regime, and they're now getting attacked. And they're going, this regime at least wasn't blowing up, most of the country. What is it? 6,000 sites have been targeted and have been bombed by Israel and United States on a war of choice. And of course, the $1 billion a day in cost to the American taxpayer, and the tax at the pump, and that's just the beginning. Let's put a few of the other costs of war. Let's start with 12.
So, Darius,
Yeah.
I want to remind you and all the watchers that when the war started, the Trump administration said the cost would be 500 million a day. And already we're at the cost is somewhere to 1 to 2 billion a day. So at least doubled. And in the worst case scenario, 4 times what the administration said it would cost.
Is this money that was supposed to fix some potholes in Fresno and take care of healthcare for the underserved in Fresno County?
Well, it's
Yeah.
money that has to come from somewhere.
Yeah. And then slide 13, Qatari smelter began shutting down operations last week. I guess there's 2 aluminum plants in the world. I didn't know that, or 2 of the maybe the major ones. So aluminum prices are going to be on the rise. And then also Qatar contributes a major share of global helium, around 63 million cubic meters in 2025. Helium gets used in chip manufacturing, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, fertilizer costs going up. Petrochemicals, from some drugs to plastics to fertilizer, a lot of parts and pieces rely on petroleum. And we saw what happened to fertilizer prices after the Ukraine war started.
Darius, you mentioned about something about a lot of bad people in the world. There's always bad people in the world and what they do to others. Not to depress you, but think about what's happening with AI and how it's being used in military operations. It just opens the door to more bad actors doing more of these types of inhumane things. I mean, we have a Trump administration now advocating for killing by AI. Think about that. There's no one pushing the button. There's no one risking their life to achieve killing. This is all the more reason why we need to have international laws, and we need to have rules of engagement for war, and we need the Geneva Convention. But as this war is showing, as Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth with his statements, such as take no quarters, which means take no prisoners. The United States is really out there. It's really turning its back on its values in the way this war is being waged.
Well, we're becoming the bully of the world. We have power, military might, and we're going to use it. Unfortunately, a lot of empires that are no longer around did the same thing. Um, yeah, so many of us immigrate to this beautiful country because of its values. And now we're our values that we're going to be a bully. I hope we're going to, there's a peace end, not an ever war and killing of children and occupying countries and blowing up, infrastructure. Because who's going to go rebuild it? Anyhow, there's a company which, yeah, we're going to try to get the logo that does exactly what you talk about. Anduril was 60 Minutes had a great expose. Autonomous killing machines. So drones that follow F-35s, submarines, autonomously hunt down and kill whatever it wants. Fighter jets, not just drones, unmanned, and we'll put and they're getting massive amounts of defense contracts, and they're opening up. Is it a 5,000 member factory someplace in California, if I remember correctly. If Eric or Christian can track that down, we'll put that on the screen for you as well. And while we're doing that, let's see what else we got cooking today before we. By the way, 2 more days to the end of Ramadan. Last day of Ramadan, the holy month of Ramadan that some Muslims around the world dry fast from dawn to dusk, ends on Thursday. While we're tracking Anduril, oh, there it is. We have it on the screen. U.S. defense firm Anduril is set to double its valuation with $4 billion of funding. I don't know how old that is, but that's the company. A great 60 Minutes expose on them, on what they do, and they're opening up a lot more factories. It sounds like they're going to be getting a lot more contracts from the Defense Department. So, Bill, what you were saying is gonna happen faster, and we're gonna have AI and autonomous killing machines all over the place, tracking folks down.
I mean, many people worry about the effects of AI in the workplace, right? We have studies now that say employees are stressed out by AI. AI is supposed to make the job easier. Right now, it's imperfect. We know AI has a lot of errors in it. So we still need humans, especially when it comes to relaying information. But
Right.
really, to me, relatively unexplored is this whole aspect of AI and war, where we know the profits are higher. And capital always flows to the area where it's going to return the most. And clearly that's in the war business.
Unfortunately, true. Before we move on, we have a couple of other things to talk about locally. Bill, you've got a couple on Cesar Chavez and on the billionaire revolt. But before, let me just read a couple of the comments. We could probably take the slide off screen. Last comment, Mike Schwabenland, who comments frequently, as a reality of the damage Trump has done, there are many supporters. Republicans continue to lie about everything to support Trump. You have to please address this issue, especially as local politicians still support Trump and continue to lie about issues surrounding Newsom. They live in a separate reality. Cam Malloy, regarding the war, I don't even know where to start. I pray to end soon. Trump is too beholden to Israel, and our allies want nothing to do with this. He just said twice. He spoke to a former president who said he wished he had bombed Iran. All former presidents have denied this. He is delusional. Mike Schwabenland, can you discuss Trump's SAVE Act? In fact, in a later program, can you discuss everything Trump, history, criminality, and how he and MAGA Republicans and Project 2025 have a mill change America? America's in serious trouble. Bill, any comments on those comments?
Well, we know the SAFE Act, which is voter ID. Thus far, it doesn't look like it has the support in the Senate.
Does or does not?
No, it does not have Senate support. And Trump has said, get rid of the filibuster and you can pass it. And there's not enough votes in the Senate to get rid of the filibuster. This is a big Trump priority. And the hangup I see with the SAFE Act, because we have a lot of states that require voter ID. And when they require voter ID, they're talking about a driver's license, basically, or a birth certificate. The SAFE Act would require a passport. Well, there are millions of Americans, tens of millions of Americans who don't travel abroad, or they're seniors, they're done with their traveling, they don't have a passport. Can you imagine requiring a passport to vote? That's simply un-American. And Trump wants to do this so he can tamp down vote, especially poor people might not have the money for a passport, might, they would, to get a passport, you have to present a lot of papers. Do they have those papers? You tamp down the vote of the poorer people who are likely to vote Democrat. And Trump sees this as the way to, pave the way to continue the MAGA stronghold on the White House and in Congress.
You and I have debated this for years. I support voter ID. But,
well, I can live with the driver's license.
Yeah, the driver's license.
But a passport?
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah, driver's license. Now, the only thing with driver's license is you could be a resident and not have a driver's license.
Yeah, but then you would have that state's identification card, which goes through the same process as a driver's license as far as establishing who you are. And then we have the other thing, which is how many times has voter fraud been investigated? And what are the numbers that come up? Even conservative groups have said this is not a problem in America. This is Trump relentlessly for more than 15 years talking about this subject. And this time, I mean, it's just so obvious. It's about preservation of power. You got to remember, this is the guy that said, Barack Obama, show us your birth certificate. Obama did, finally to shut this guy up. But how many days a week or nights a week was Trump on CNN or Fox, or every network would have him crying about Obama and saying he was born in Kenya.
I remember those days. Okay, let's go on to some local stuff. Let's put up slide 30. Billionaires bolt blue states amid tax fears, mirroring rebellion and Atlas Shrugged.
So Atlas Shrugged is, the great American novel.
Is it the one that's like 1,000 pages long?
Yeah, it's more than 1,000 pages,
Okay.
And it's assigned in literary classes, it's assigned in economics classes. And basically, it's about the rich of America revolting under the weight of the tax burden and all going to one community in Colorado and living there. That's a novel. But in California, we have the proposed billionaires tax. New York is proposing a lot of new taxes on the wealthy. And you have the governors of both states saying, you need to do the math. If the wealthy leave our states, in California's case, you have the wealthy, the top 1% of wage earners in California, they contribute 50% of the taxes to the state's general fund. In New York, the governor's come out and said, look, we have a lot of great safety net programs. We're proud of those programs. They help people every day. But if the wealthy leave the state of New York, those safety net programs are going away. So this is a debate, clearly worth having. And my advice to voters is find out how these pencil.
Yeah, you tax these folks too much, they can pack up and leave, and then now we have a big gap.
The other thing that's done in California is the billionaires now are really getting involved in politics and pouring massive amounts of money, prepping to prepare against the billionaires tax if it makes the ballot, but also pouring a lot of money into pro-housing issues, making it easier to build housing in California, further CEQA reform. And then about issues regarding AI, which they have a direct financial interest in. So this is kind of awakened the sleeping giant in California politics.
And then the Trump administration turns to migrants to address farm labor shortage. And we're going to have lots of labor shortage in construction if interest rates ever come down, mortgage rates ever come down. By the way, my fear is that they're going to go in the other direction as oil spikes, which is not only gas at the pump. A lot of other things are going to be going up if the war in the Persian Gulf and Iran continues, and we could have an interest rate hike, and I'm really concerned about that here in the next few months. But to keep the farm labor shortage down, President Trump is looking at migrants.
So he's expanding the H-2 visa program, which has been around. He's lowering the costs for participation in that program. And so you have the irony of the ICE crackdown, arresting people who may work in the fields or causing them to self-deport to Mexico. Anyway, it's really made that farm labor pool even smaller. It's always been a challenge to fill it. So very quietly, because his own ag secretary told him, this idea that more Americans are going to come and work in the fields when we do the ICE crackdown. Well, it's just ridiculous. And Trump repeated that many times. And he also said this would cause ag wages to go up, so these would become good jobs for Americans. Hasn't happened, like so many of the proclamations he makes. And so now, very quietly, they're expanding this visa program. So it's a guest worker program. It's like back to what we had in the 50s and 60s. And they're coming in for farm labor. And I would expect soon that'll be expanded to construction and to
hospitality,
packing houses and the like.
Bill, question: are they? So let me make sure I understand. Is ICE going? Here's a bunch of illegals. We're going to actually now give them visas so they can work in the fields. I mean, where are they getting the migrants? Are they migrants that are already detained? They say, wait a minute,
No.
Change our mind. You can go work in the fields now. Is that what they're doing?
No, you'd have to come in from a foreign country. So it would provide an incentive to self-deport.
So you can leave and then turn around and say, hey, I want to apply for the same job and get a visa. So, well, that's maybe step one. President Trump wants to do a comprehensive immigration reform, fix all, make it now legal. I'm really hopeful that the president will be doing comprehensive immigration reform. I think ICE has run through a cycle, a lot of angst amongst the American population, although I don't know how many people they've deported. Wasn't President Obama the #1 deporter in chief?
Well, he got that nickname, deporter in chief. And there's so many different ways to count the numbers. And in Obama's case, was less about deporting people from the United States as opposed to not letting them in at the border.
Got it. And then we're going to get to one of your the last item, which is on Caesar. UFW cancels Cesar Chavez celebrations. Anything else before that, Bill? You want to cover?
No, that's good.
Okay, so this is one of your articles.
Yeah, so I mean, a bombshell announcement today that the United Farm Workers Union, it was co-founded by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. They're saying they're not participating in any Cesar Chavez Day activities. And his birthday's on March 31st, so, it's a holiday in the state of California, some other states, a lot of celebrations, tributes to the work he did for the farm labor movement and for other workers. Well, all of a sudden there are these allegations, and I stress they're allegations, but United Farm Workers reveals and says they're concerned about allegations about the abuse of women and young girls by Cesar Chavez. And the reaction, I mean, this is being felt from Fresno to New York City. Fresno's celebration for tomorrow at the Warner's Theater apparently has been canceled. Fresno Unified put out a statement saying they wouldn't participate. We know that celebrations in Houston, San Antonio, Corpus Christi, Tucson, Arizona, San Bernardino, California, canceled in the wake of what's come out. Dolores Huerta herself, who really has probably surpassed Cesar Chavez as a labor icon because she maintains that active schedule, travels all over the country. She dropped out of a celebration that was planned for today, and when she did, that celebration was canceled. So there's a lot about this. It raises all the issues about who are our heroes, how far in the past do you go back and scrub everything they did. And in this case, these allegations have risen, and they're very serious allegations. They're shocking, they're disturbing. So we'll see what's next.
Thank you for that, Bill. Before we go, question. Was Cesar Chavez connected to Epstein in any way?
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Wait a minute, we lost you for a second. What did you say?
No, not that I know of.
Oh, can you guys hear Bill? I think, yeah, I think that was a joke, obviously.
No,
But-
I know.
Okay.
You caught me off guard with that one.
Okay. Let's put up slide 5 back up again. For those of you that want to read that article, it is on GVWire, but it'll be back on our main page tomorrow. Got some personal comments right now that, hey, where can we track this down? So it'll be back on our main page tomorrow morning, if not later on tonight. For those of you that want to read Bill's column on Fresno land. Go ahead.
Doris, it's still on the homepage.
It's still on the homepage. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
just go to the opinion section.
Okay. Is it when you go to on the main homepage, you'll see it? Is it on there?
Yeah, go down
Okay.
to opinion. There it is.
Okay, got it. Let's see. Cam Malloy, it must be pretty substantial if his own organization is reacting so decisively. It will be interesting to see what unfolds. Okay, with that, that's a wrap. Thanks everybody for watching us this week. Have a great week. It's going to be a little warm next few days, cooling off over the weekend. Have a safe and happy week. Again, happy St. Paddy's Day to all of you in our country and in Ireland, and those of you that celebrate that. And happy last day of Ramadan and the Eid of Fitr, which is on Friday, to all my Muslim and really Christian and Jewish friends, both here and across the world. Have a great week and see you next Tuesday. Good night.